A really powerful thought experiment that you can do to figure out what you should do to grow your business and your practice in medical aesthetics is actually to think about how to do the exact opposite. When you know this, it becomes really obvious what you need to do to succeed. So here are 7 ways that you can really fail at medical aesthetics. And then don't forget to stay to the end, where I'm going to be sharing an additional 4-step formula to growing your confidence, the main thing that holds people back. To start with, I want to take you back to a moment where I nearly quit medical aesthetics. Now, looking back, this was actually a crucial moment in my career, because just on the other side of overcoming that problem, all sorts of great things started to happen. What happened was I'd had a series of difficult patients. Some were saying they had had complications, and I had a colleague who was really unsupportive, who was actually quite happy to see me struggling. At this moment, I really asked myself the question of whether I was cut out for this career. You know, you can often feel very much alone and stuck with a difficult patient without any support, and this can make you question whether you're in the right place or not. The truth is, as I overcame those obstacles, all sorts of other things came into play that made the rest of my career much easier. Of course, you're always hitting your head on the next limitation, but that was a crucial moment for me. So if you've ever found yourself at a low point, it's often good to remember that this is often when people bounce and you end up getting to new highs once you've overcome the problems that got you to that position. So let's dive in with number 1. This is what I hear when I'm coaching various delegates, the hidden elephant in the room that they're not actually get moving, which is that they plan to start tomorrow. There is no better time than today. Take an action today to move your dreams forward. The people who start with tomorrow often leave it for years. So start today. Don't make the mistake of starting tomorrow. Here's another on a similar vein, which is I'm waiting until conditions are perfect. This is particularly true with content creators who want a full production studio before they pick up their phone and make a video. The conditions are perfect problem is an issue because no matter what happens, there's always a reason why you maybe didn't sleep too well, or you haven't eaten, or you haven't done your hair, or you haven't done your makeup right. And there's always a reason not to do the thing that you need to do to move forward with your future. So don't become one of the people who wait until conditions are perfect. Do it imperfectly and then get better at it over time. The next mistake is made by virtually every clinician when they first start, and I have to admit that I also made this mistake. And this is when you set your prices, all you do is copy the local competition and hope that they're doing it right. So this means the most important part of your strategy you've copied from someone quite average. So instead of copying a bunch of struggling local businesses, instead work backwards from a goal that really matters to you. Think about the profit margins that would make your struggle worthwhile, and then work backwards from that to think about how you become valuable enough to justify those prices. This is a far more strategic way of designing a business, and if you don't do that, you end up in the midst of the pile where it's most competitive, there are most number of people doing exactly the same thing, and it's very, very hard work. So think differently, start with the end in mind, and don't copy your local competition. The next mistake I know that many clinicians make is essentially that they suppress their excitement and optimism for the future so that they better fit in with those around them who are essentially predicting you a more mediocre future. Now, this is the problem of getting excited and someone close to you saying, sounds like a pipe dream. Even if they don't say it with words, they're saying it in their body language. They don't really believe that you're going to start your own practice and be successful because they can't imagine doing that for themselves. And this is a really common way that people actually hold themselves back, is they try and think reasonably. Like, let's not be too ambitious. Let's not be too excitable. Let's just pick something that no one around me will be too shocked by. And essentially what you're doing there is choosing a very mediocre strategy, a mediocre dream. They're actually sometimes the hardest to execute because the motivation is quite low when you have a mediocre dream. And the problem with this is that you end up working the same amount of hours for very little extra, struggling quite a lot because you're too worried about asking for what you really want. You really have to be bold when you set out your first intention and not worry about those around you who may think it's impossible. State what you want in life and then design a strategy that you think might get you there. The next really big mistake clinicians make is that they start out commoditizing themselves. And this is when you think of yourself as just another injector. Essentially, you're weighing yourself up compared with your competition according to the price of a mil of product or a unit that you might be injecting, instead of asking yourself, what do patients value that I've got? Because many of you have got tons of people skills and the ability to connect and coach people in consultations that you don't price in to your prices. Patients are absolutely willing to pay for it. They are willing to pay for clinicians who give good explanations, who make them feel safe, who listen to their problems, who really care about the outcome. But so often this is not built into the price, and you copy someone local to you who's basically a vending machine, who doesn't do any of these things that you care about, and you then wonder why it's unrewarding dealing with the patients who effectively don't value what you have to bring. So find out what's valuable about yourself, pitch yourself as valuable in the marketplace to the people who care about that stuff, and make sure your prices fit with that particular set of values. Otherwise, you're underselling yourself, you're attracting the wrong patients, and it's a bit of a struggle to actually get your business going. The next one's really a bit controversial, but many clinicians wait until they feel confident. And that's partly because you like to think of yourself as a safe clinician. You shouldn't do things that you aren't confident to do. But here's the truth. None of us are confident when you start. That's not how confidence works. It doesn't matter what task you're talking about, be it a procedure or a video to social media, we all feel unconfident at the beginning. And that's because we don't yet fully understand how confidence works. It's actually the payment that you get for successfully performing something. It's not something that you have before you start. The next mistake is actually the first mistake that we all make, and I have made this mistake myself. And it's essentially to set goals that are actually what you think you can attain rather than what you actually want. It's way better to set the goal of the thing you actually want rather than the thing you can actually get. Although there's more struggle in it, you will find a better strategy at the other end of it. Now, there's a poem that really captures this for me, and I heard it from a psychologist who I came across called Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And it's a very useful idea, which when I've shared it with many people, there is often a little aha moment. So let me read this poem to you and see if it makes you think differently about what your goals are. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. Life is a just employer, gives you what you ask, but once you've set the wages, why you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked for life would have willingly paid. Let me give you an example of where I made this crucial mistake. When I first started in medical aesthetics, I took over from my friend Beatrice, Dr. Beatrice Lai in Hong Kong now. She emigrated, but she got me into medical aesthetics. And what I did was I copied her business. She worked in a local beauty salon, and I thought, well, that's what you have to do to get started in medical aesthetics. And what I did is I started to scale up that model. Eventually, we had over 100 different salons around the Manchester area, and I was working incredibly hard, traveling all over the place. And essentially what I'd done is built a business that I hated. I loved all the patients, I will say that, but I didn't like all the travel and the time it took me. And I had various ideas about how I would get out of that situation. But looking back, it was a pretty low-level goal to have. And what I should have done is actually ask myself, what do I want my life to be like in 5 years' time? And come up with a strategy specifically to achieve that, instead of a strategy to scale up someone else's goal, which is what we're effectively doing. If you ask yourself the question of what you really want, and it is an act of bravery to state this is what that poem effectively says to us. You must be brave to state what you really want. The bravery comes because you may not achieve it, but I tell you what, you're way more likely to achieve it if you state what you really want than if you pretend that you'll just have what everyone else or what you seem to be able to get fairly easily. So think more carefully, set bigger goals, and go after what really matters to you instead of just doing predictable stuff. So let me now share with you my final tip. This is such a useful idea because so many injectors on my Instagram especially will say, how do you get more confident? Confidence is a big goal that people have. And this 4-step formula comes from a business coach who I came across called Dan Sullivan. And it's a fantastic idea because he describes the process that you need to go through to become confident. It starts with really committing to a goal. So whatever your goal is, there's a very big difference between being 98% committed and 100% committed. When you're 100% committed, it will change your physiology to a degree when you can then start to move on to the next step. Now, the next step after commitment is courage. And when you have the courage, you can start to move forward to do the things you've not done before. Now, there's a crucial insight here with courage, which is courage does not feel nice. Courage is actually quite an unpleasant feeling. So we often say to people who are courageous that, good on you, and you imagine them feeling strong. But that's not courage, that's confidence. What courage is doing things when you don't actually feel like doing it, because there's a risk involved. But that's an essential part of developing confidence. Because once you have the courage to start to implement, you get the next C, which is capability. If you're actually doing new things that you've never done before, you will perceive yourself to be developing capability. And only once you've developed capability do you actually get the confidence. Confidence is a byproduct of executing things you've not done before. And to do that, you need to be brave. And to do that, you need to be fully committed. So I hope this little summary has helped you clarify your goals and move forward in your aesthetics career. I've also included a free download, the 5 steps to aesthetic success, which you can get in the link down below. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to make sure that you don't miss further content like this.